You ever notice how some women, no matter their age, light up a little differently when they talk about a man who's older? Not just older in years, but older in the way he carries himself. There's something about that quiet steadiness, that subtle confidence that makes a woman's guard drop. Because let's be honest, women don't fall for older men because of candles and calendars. They fall for the way he makes her feel seen, safe, and understood. It's not about money or wrinkles or experience alone. It's about what he does with all of that. There are 4 things specifically that set him apart. The first thing, he listens. Not the kind of listening that's just waiting for his turn to speak, but the kind that holds space. When she talks, he doesn't rush to fix it. He doesn't interrupt with solutions or jokes or advice she didn't ask for. He just listens. And in that moment, she feels the kind of attention most people don't give each other anymore. It's rare. You can tell by the way he looks at her, not at her lips or her outfit or his phone, but at her. He's paying attention to her words, her pauses, the emotions underneath them. When a woman feels heard, she relaxes. She softens. Because in a world where she's constantly being told to do more, be more, prove more, that kind of listening feels like peace. And peace is seductive. A woman can meet a man her own age who's charming, funny, maybe even successful, but if he doesn't make her feel understood, she won't stay. With an older man who listens, really listens, she feels valued for her mind, not just her body. And that's a kind of intimacy that runs deep. The second thing older men who women love tend to do, they lead with emotional steadiness, not control, not dominance, just calm. Life throws its storms at everyone, but he doesn't panic when it rains. He's been through things. He's learned what's worth his energy and what's not. When she's upset, he doesn't meet her fire with more fire. He lets her feel what she feels without making it about himself. He's a steady hand in chaos. That kind of energy is grounding. Because most women have lived through situations where emotional volatility was the norm, arguments that go nowhere, promises that fade, people who say one thing and do another. So when she meets a man who can keep his cool without shutting her out, it feels like stepping into sunlight after years in the shade. She trusts him faster. She opens up more. And not because he demands it, but because his presence tells her she's safe. You see, steadiness doesn't mean he's emotionless. It means he knows himself well enough not to let ego drive the moment. That's something age and experience often teach better than anything else. He's not performing. He's not playing hard to get. He's just there fully, in control of himself, but soft enough to care. And that balance, it's magnetic. Now the third thing older men do that women can't help but fall for, they show consistency. It's not glamorous, but it's everything. He calls when he says he will, he follows through. He remembers the small details, not because he's trying to impress her, but because he knows reliability is rare and respect is earned through action. Consistency builds trust, and trust builds attraction. You can't fake that. A woman who's spent years around people who flake, who talk big but deliver small, feels something shift when she meets a man who simply shows up. He doesn't need to announce his loyalty. He proves it. Over time, she stops waiting for the other shoe to drop. She starts breathing easier. You can tell a man's character not by what he says in the big moments, but by how he handles the small ones. Does he cancel when he's tired? Or does he keep his word? Does he make excuses? Or does he make time? Those little patterns reveal everything. Older men who've lived long enough to value stability understand that excitement fades, but dependability, that's what love is built on. The kind where she can be in her sweatpants, hair a mess, talking about her day, and he's still looking at her like she's fascinating. Older men who love deeply know that real attraction grows through presence, not performance. They understand that what keeps love alive isn't fireworks, it's curiosity. They stay curious about her. They don't assume they've figured her out. They keep asking, keep learning, keep discovering who she's becoming. That's what makes a woman stay, not the promises, but the attention. And maybe the most beautiful thing they do is give without keeping score. When he loves, it's not transactional. He's not giving to get something back. He's giving because it feels good to give. He's secure enough to pour into her without fear of losing himself. And she feels that. She feels the purity of it. That's why women who've been through surface-level relationships are drawn to this kind of man. Because after you've known inconsistency, peace feels like luxury. After you've been underestimated, being truly seen feels like grace. It's not about his age. It's about his growth. About the patience, the steadiness, the care he's learned to bring into every connection. And when he gives that kind of energy, he doesn't just make a woman fall for him. He helps her remember what she deserves. That's the quiet power of older men who do these 4 things. They don't just attract women, they restore faith in love itself. Sometimes it's not even about romance at first. Sometimes it starts with conversation. She'll notice the way he talks about life, measured, thoughtful, with pauses that leave space for reflection. He's not rushing to fill silence. He's comfortable in it. And that comfort is contagious. You can tell he's made peace with who he is. That's attractive in ways people don't always admit. Because confidence isn't loud. It's not the man who needs to announce his worth. It's the one who carries it quietly. An older man who's grown through his years doesn't need validation. He's lived enough to know the difference between attention and connection. When he gives his time, he means it. When he says he'll be there, he shows up. His words match his actions. There's a rare kind of integrity in that, and women recognize it immediately. You can fake almost anything in this world. Status, charm, even affection, but not integrity. You either have it or you don't. He's not trying to impress her with what he owns or where he's been. He's more interested in where she wants to go. He asks questions that make her think, and he listens to the answers with genuine curiosity. He's not comparing her to anyone. He's not trying to mold her into his idea of perfection. He's meeting her where she is and appreciating her for it. When a man carries that energy, it feels like a relief. Because most women have learned to guard themselves against disappointment. They've learned that words can sound sweet, but mean nothing. So when she meets a man who delivers what he promises, she doesn't fall for him overnight. She relaxes into him slowly. Her trust builds layer by layer. That's real intimacy. And you know what else? Older men who do these things don't compete with her light. They celebrate it. He's not intimidated if she's ambitious, successful, or outspoken. He admires it. He's seen enough of life to know that confidence in a woman doesn't threaten him. It attracts him. He's not trying to outshine her. He wants to stand beside her. That difference changes everything. A woman who's had to dim her light in past relationships finds it healing when someone says, "Shine brighter." He's not saying it because it makes him look good. He's saying it because he means it. He's secure enough to love her without needing to control her. That's the kind of love that expands both people. And this is something that rarely gets said. An older man who loves with intention doesn't rush the process. He doesn't need to label everything in the first week. He's not pushing or pulling. He knows that the right connection doesn't require pressure. It requires patience. And that patience gives the relationship space to breathe, to grow, to become something real. He's learned that love doesn't thrive in urgency. It thrives in understanding. He knows that chemistry can spark instantly, but compatibility takes time. So he takes that time. He builds slowly. He observes. He learns her moods, her habits, her laughter, her silences. He learns how to support her without taking over. That's emotional intelligence in motion. And because of that, he doesn't take her love for granted. He knows that affection is a privilege, not an entitlement. He's seen how fragile connection can be, so he treats it with care. The way he touches her back when they walk through a crowd, the way he texts to make sure she got home safe. It's not performative. It's instinctive. It's how he loves. He also knows that attraction isn't just about looks. It's about energy. He's learned to maintain himself not just physically, but mentally and emotionally. He stays curious about life. He keeps learning, keeps growing. That's what keeps him vibrant. Because real magnetism doesn't fade with age, it evolves. It deepens, becomes more intentional. When a woman sees that, she feels inspired. Because she doesn't want to be someone's project. She wants to be someone's partner. And when she's with a man who shows her through actions that partnership means balance, respect, and shared growth, she feels safe to give more of herself. Older men who understand this also bring peace to communication. They don't weaponize silence. They don't make her guess what's wrong. They talk. They articulate what they feel without turning it into blame. They know the difference between expressing emotion and projecting pain. And that's something that only comes with maturity. You can tell when a man has healed some of his old wounds because he doesn't try to make her pay for them. He doesn't carry his past like a sword. He's learned how to process, how to forgive, how to move forward. So when he loves with clarity. He's not dragging ghosts into the room. He's fully present. That's why women feel such deep safety around that kind of energy. Because love without safety isn't love, it's anxiety. When she can rest around him, when she doesn't have to overthink every word, when she feels seen without being judged, her whole nervous system relaxes. That's not just emotional attraction. That's biological. Her body recognizes peace and calls it home. And there's something incredibly tender about the way an older man brings playfulness into the mix. He doesn't confuse maturity with seriousness. He laughs easily. He teases kindly. He knows that humor softens hard days, and that joy is part of connection. He's not performing coolness. He's genuinely enjoying the moment. That kind of ease makes her open up even more. He's lived enough to know that love isn't about control. It's about choice. Every day he chooses to show up, to be kind, to communicate, to appreciate. And that daily choice is what keeps love alive. It's not dramatic. It's not loud. It's steady, like heartbeat rhythm, quiet but constant. The truth is, women aren't drawn to age, they're drawn to evolution. They're drawn to men who've turned experience into empathy, who've replaced pride with patience, who've traded games for honesty. That's the real appeal. Because those qualities don't just make a man attractive, they make him trustworthy. When a woman feels that kind of connection, she's not falling for the fantasy of what he could be. She's falling for the reality of what he already is. And that's a completely different kind of love. He doesn't promise forever. He promises effort. And somehow that means more. Because he's not selling a dream. He's building something real. She doesn't feel the need to chase validation. She doesn't wonder if he cares. She knows. It's in how he shows up every single day. In the consistency of his presence. In the quiet reassurance that she's safe where she stands. That's what older men who do these things bring to the table. They don't chase chaos. They cultivate calm. They don't demand submission. They inspire trust. They don't measure love by words. They measure it by how well they protect peace. It's not about being perfect or always knowing what to say. It's about showing up with self-awareness, humility, and care. Those are the things that make love sustainable. And once a woman experiences that, it changes her completely. She stops craving adrenaline. She starts craving alignment. She stops looking for attention. She starts valuing peace. That's what these men teach without ever preaching. And what's interesting is how simple those gestures are when you look closely. He's not doing anything grand or cinematic. He's not pulling up with flowers every morning or writing poems under moonlight. It's in how he listens, how he remembers, how he responds with patience instead of pride. Real connection doesn't need decoration. It needs depth. Women are drawn to that kind of man because he doesn't confuse affection with possession. He doesn't cling out of fear. He doesn't try to control where she goes, who she sees, or how she expresses herself. He trusts her, and in that trust, she feels freer than she's ever felt. That's the irony of it. When a man gives a woman freedom, she often chooses to stay. He understands that love is not a cage. It's a choice you keep making, and that understanding comes from experience. He's seen what happens when people try to hold too tight, when they love from insecurity instead of strength. He's done the work of letting go of that. That's why his energy feels calm. It's not that he's unbothered. It's that he's grounded. He knows who he is, and that self-assurance creates safety. Not just emotional safety, but energetic safety. She can feel it before he even says a word. It's in how he walks into a room. Unhurried, composed, not trying to dominate the space, just belonging to it. You can't fake that kind of presence. It comes from having faced yourself, made peace with your flaws, and accepted that growth never stops. When he loves, it's not about escaping loneliness. It's about sharing wholeness. He's not looking for someone to complete him. He's looking for someone to walk beside him. And that's such a shift from the usual stories we grow up hearing. Love for him isn't about filling a gap. It's about expansion. And women feel that difference right away. You can tell in the way she relaxes her shoulders when she's around him, how her laughter gets deeper, how her guard lowers without her even realizing it. It's because she's not bracing for disappointment. She's not waiting for inconsistency. She's resting in steadiness. There's a quiet kind of intimacy that grows from that. They might be sitting in silence, watching a movie, or sharing a meal, and there's no need to fill the air with noise. That silence isn't empty. It's full of comfort, full of understanding. That's what happens when two people are emotionally mature. The love doesn't need to shout. And it's not just his patience with her. It's his patience with himself. He's learned to forgive his past, to make peace with mistakes, to see his history not as shame but as wisdom. That kind of self-forgiveness makes him softer. It makes him kinder. He doesn't hold people to impossible standards because he knows what it means to fall short. That humility is magnetic. Women feel safe with men who carry humility. Not the kind that's weak, but the kind that's balanced. Strength that's softened by empathy. When she's upset, he doesn't mock her emotions or call her dramatic. He listens. He tries to understand. And when he doesn't, he still stays present. The kind that doesn't make them anxious. That doesn't leave them questioning. That doesn't make them feel small. The kind of love that lets them breathe, expand, and feel at home. Here's a 500-word conclusion written in the same intimate, reflective tone. Clear, direct, and emotionally grounded, just like the rest of your speech. In the end, it all comes back to something simple. Women don't love older men because of age. They love them because of awareness. Because somewhere between heartbreak and healing, between loss and learning, some men stop chasing noise and start choosing peace. They stop performing and start listening. They start loving, not to impress, but to understand. A woman feels that difference instantly. She feels it in how he looks at her when she speaks, how he remembers the small details that most people miss, how he protects her peace instead of testing it. He's not there to rewrite her story. He's there to read it with care. He knows that love isn't something to win. It's something to nurture. And that kind of love has nothing to do with age and everything to do with maturity. He's seen enough of life to know that relationships aren't built on perfection. They're built on patience. He knows that beauty fades, but kindness doesn't. That desire burns hot, but respect burns steady. That promises mean little if they aren't followed by action. Those are truths you only really understand once you've lived long enough to see what happens when you forget them. The pie. That's why women gravitate toward older men who do these 4 things. Who listen, who stay steady, who show up, who value essence over appearance. Because they represent something rare in today's world. Presence. The kind of presence that doesn't demand attention but earns it. The kind that makes you feel like time slows down when you're with them. And maybe that's what love is supposed to feel like. Not a performance, not a competition, not a test of endurance. Just 2 people showing up as they are, both a little imperfect, both still learning, both choosing each other in small, quiet ways. When a woman finds that, it feels like she's finally come home, not to a man, but to peace. Because that's what these men create. They create peace. They offer steadiness in a world that keeps shifting, honesty in a culture that keeps pretending, patience in a time when everyone's in a rush. It's easy to talk about romance, like it's a grand story full of fireworks and passion. But the truth is, real love often looks like comfort. It looks like laughter over breakfast, long walks after hard days, the sound of 2 people breathing the same air without needing to fill the silence. It's not less exciting, it's more real. Older men who've learned how to love like that don't chase what's temporary, they build what lasts. And women, wise in their own right, see that for what it is. Not a fantasy, but a partnership. A love that doesn't take from them, but meets them. A love that feels like growth, not guessing. And when you strip everything else away, that's what we all want. To be seen, to be understood, to be loved in a way that feels safe enough to stay. That's the quiet magic of older men who do these things. They remind us that the strongest kind of love isn't the one that burns the brightest, but the one that never stops burning at all.